Welcome to a very special episode of the TalkCondo Release Radar, where today we're going to talk about the top 5 reasons to get excited for the Lakeside Residences Park Suites. So this is one of our favorite condominium projects. We've talked about it a lot in last episodes. We are now at launch time, so we want to really talk about why we're so excited about this one. So Amit, give us a quick rundown of sort of the 1,000-foot view. Overview of what this project is.
Sure, it's by one of the largest developers on the planet called Greenland. It's located in East Bayfront. East Bayfront itself is between Lower Sherborne and Parliament, so it's within that stretch, a key stretch as well. So it's a very, very important part of the city. This is the third release of the first phase. It's called the Park Suites. Called Park Suites because it's going to be facing the north part of Sherborne Common Park. So that's the building itself.
Perfect. So we're going to talk about the top 5 reasons that we're excited.
Sure.
First reason is price.
Yep.
This is always one of the best things to get excited about for a new condominium project, especially for investors. Price points. We're in a time now in downtown Toronto where prices are escalating. We're in a time where $1,000 a foot is sort of
the norm.
The norm.
Yeah. From on a resale side too.
Yeah,
which is very
in the
important
city.
to highlight.
In the city, in new condominium and resale, we're actually blowing by $1,200, $1,300 a foot in many cases as well.
Sure.
So the first one is price. So Amit, give us a quick rundown on where we're at with pricing here and why we're so excited about price. But before you do that, what I want to do here is really highlight. You mentioned this is the third release of Lakeside. So let's talk to me about where that is in relation to the first 2 releases and how that plays.
Sure. Well, first of all, it's tremendous value. When it comes to the price point here. The initial release was very much investor focused, I'd say. And that was the first release, the initial release called the City Suites. And then you had the second release of Suites, which was the Sky Suites, which was in the tower. So you did have a few suites in there that was geared more towards the end users, some obviously geared towards the investor crowd. And you did see a little bit of a price bump.
Because of the views, you're getting better views.
Exactly. You've got, spectacular views of the city, you've got spectacular views of the actual development itself on the west side, the east side, you have the beautiful park looking south, you've got potentially lake views. South, obviously, you're going to get tremendous views as well. And, it was priced accordingly. This third release, the Park Suite release, I think is going to be very similar to the initial release, which was the City Suites, where you're going to have smaller suites, you're going to have a lot more value-driven pricing.
So the parallels are there with the City Suites between Parallel and Park. So the main parallels are, number 1, it's on the lower floors. Number 2
2 to 15.
2 to 15 floors. The second parallel is that the suite sizes are going to be smaller, more geared towards those investors. Number 3 is that the price points, and we're going back to the price point as the number 1 reason that we're excited here. But the price points we're expecting to be more in line with the City Suites. So in terms of the numbers that we've been given, we've been told to expect around $1,000 per square foot. Now, again, in this area, we're seeing
neighboring projects. They are around 20 to 40% higher. In some cases, and like how I mentioned before, in terms of value proposition, this has a lot of that. And I think all of us, we agree that there's a lot of upside here. So if you're able to get into something like a Park Suite, which, by the way, I think are going to be equally as good as, say, some of the Sky Suites residences in terms of views. You're going to have access to the same amenities, everything.
Suite finishes,
the retail courtyard, everything is. You can have access to all of that. It's not going to change because you're paying less. You're going to have access to all of that. So in terms of value prop, I think this is fantastic.
That price point is important from an investor standpoint because the projects that you're mentioning 20 to 40% higher. There's not as much investor product in those for people looking to get into this neighborhood because of the reasons we're going to talk about. Lakeside has become a huge attraction draw for them. So that's why City Suites was blow out in terms of demand, and we expect the same from from Park as
I
well.
agree.
Yeah, so where we're sitting right now is that first release, City Suites, which is very similar to Park Suites, sold out in a weekend. It was in and out. There was a lot of buyers there that tried to get in that couldn't. There was just too much demand on that one. The second release, which is the Sky Suites, is about 80% right now. We're looking at larger suites available. And now again, we're going back to that investor friendly. So we're expecting a lot of demand on this one.
Absolutely.
And transitioning now into reason number 2, you mentioned the upside. The second reason that we're really excited about Lakeside is the master plan community.
Yeah, there's a lot of subheadings in this section.
So we talk about master plans a lot.
Yeah, we love master plans.
Yeah. So the first before we talk about what they're actually doing here, it's important to understand why we get excited when we see a master plan. It's a tried and trusted. And over and over and over again, we see buyers that buy early into a multi-phased development. When they buy early, you're really locking in that price.
They reap the rewards of the overall growth.
Yeah, and the general strategy is you buy the first one, the second one will be more expensive than the first, the third will be more expensive than the previous, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And we've seen this time and time and time again, just over the last few years, some of the big multi-phase redevelopments.
Yeah.
Regent Park.
Yeah.
The guys who invested early in Regent Park are laughing all the way to the bank. We've got anywhere in the East Liberty Village, the east side of Toronto. So there's so many examples of this, and it's such a trusted method of investing and strategy of investing, which is why we get so excited.
Yeah.
Transitioning a little bit over there to the side is that there's a very big difference between a good master plan and a bad master plan.
Yeah.
And it's being able to identify those ones that have the potential where the growth is going to happen that becomes so important. So I know you talked a little, you looked into this a little bit. So
I think we spoke about this a little bit where we said we've got 5 pillars. What would make a successful neighborhood, and the 5 that I think we think would genuinely make a neighborhood successful more so than others is if they have, number 1, jobs, number 2, education space, number 3, retail space, number 4, public space, and number 5, obviously for everyone, a place to live, so residences. And I think
in a nutshell, when you just to simplify all that down, the 5 pillars is that people want things to do in the community. They need to work, they need to live, they need to play.
Yeah, live, work, play.
It's a city within community. It's you would not have to leave your community to do everything that
to do things. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's important to highlight these because there's so many examples of master plans in Toronto done not so
missing a couple of the pillars.
Yeah,
let's just say that.
Well, the big component of that is that those necessarily didn't have a long-term vision.
Correct.
Whereas in East Bayfront, we have Waterfront Toronto that has developed an entire vision for this community, which is that's the difference there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So some of those things that we're going to talk about next come from a point where we've been able to plan for everything in a much longer term aspect. So you're going to get all of those things there that make East Bayfront and Lakeside specifically a good master plan.
And I think this all boils down to one thing. When you're parking your money in a condominium investment, you want to be in an area where you're going to see that growth. And when we see these bad master plans, quote unquote, we do tend to see prices flatline or not rising as fast as some of the better ones.
For sure.
So you mentioned the 5 pillars of a great master plan, and I want to talk now about the ones that really do make East Bayfront very special in our eyes. The first one is retail. Retail being shops, basically. So there's been a big component here, and you mentioned Waterfront Toronto overseeing this whole development. And give us a quick rundown on how retail plays a role.
It's a huge role. It's basically what was when they created the plan or the vision for this neighborhood. They said that look, a retail and public space has to be a very, very key component of this entire neighborhood. So I guess it was mandated that every single development must have double height retail
on the ground level.
On the ground level, and that in terms of sort of walkability and creating a life within a neighborhood,
community,
and a community feel. These two things especially retail, play a big part. Because if you're in a neighborhood where, like you mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, where there's just a dry cleaner and a dentist, but nothing much else to do, you're not going to see people wanting to walk around, grab a coffee, and do this and do that. It's a space and place to enjoy.
What makes the double height retail though so different?
You don't tend to see that very often.
Right.
There's more of a grander feel to the whole space itself.
It's double floors, like 18
double
to
floor.
20
Exactly.
floors.
So they've been mandated to have this dedicated strip of every single
looks a lot
piece of
sharper
real estate.
too,
It looks phenomenal. Think Yorkville-esque.
Right.
Is the kind of feel that they're trying to do here.
And again, I think it's always important to draw parallels.
Yes.
You know, I always remember being in a neighborhood, one of these master plans where we had a friend there. We went there, and I was hungry and I wanted to grab a bite to eat. And there was literally nowhere to get food. And we're talking about a downtown location.
Yeah.
I actually had to go to the Esso station to get a sandwich. That was the only thing nearby. And it's when you go down it, it's got this sort of dead feel. It makes a huge impact.
Nobody wants to be there.
Compare that to again, drawing the parallels, compare that to a distillery district where they've put such an emphasis on the retail space and the life. And it's, you go there any time of day, there's people everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And again, these are reflected in real estate values.
Yeah.
And we see these areas where they have the dentist and the dry cleaner, for lack of better word, but that kind of retail. And we do tend to see a bit of a flatlining on pricing.
Properties tend to sit more, there's not as much activity in terms of demand, versus the other side where you have all this life and people want to be there. People want to genuinely be there because there's all this life.
Yeah. And just sticking on retail for another minute is we know a couple of the builders that have sold projects in this area have really anchored on that retail. We look at Daniel's just next door. They've actually branded it The Yard, where they're going to have 4 towers. Every single building's going to have its own internal courtyard with grocery stores and coffee shops, and they've really branded this retail space, which is going to be a connection and connected to Lakeside as well. So now we're really seeing the development embrace this.
Well, even Lakeside itself will have its own courtyard. Between
with,
the podium, the Sky Suites, and then its other future towers, it's going to have its own retail courtyard.
Yeah, for sure.
All the life is going to be.
For sure. And then in transitioning to the next big piece of the puzzle here is public space.
Yeah.
Again, another major pillar on what makes a great master plan community is public space.
Yeah.
We know a lot of thought, some of the best architects and landscape architects in the world are designing some of the spaces here. Yeah. So give us a quick rundown on the big public spaces.
Well, the ones right now that people can actually go to and enjoy, Sugar Beach being probably the most prominent one right now. And that itself is going to be extended further north as well, which is a fantastic addition. I really, really enjoy that. You do have the promenade as well. Beautiful promenade.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I think that's what makes us different, is that when we talk about future developments, we're always talking about what's going to come, to come. But you can actually
enjoy it
and see it now. And
you can go and see it and enjoy it.
You don't usually get it. You usually get built. You usually get your condos and then things get built out. But it's there first and being expanded. And
we've been selling this neighborhood since 2010, when it was just like that. It was a mound of dirt, and even then we saw the vision, and watching it come to reality has been amazing, and it's really surpassed what we even thought.
Well, I was just going to say that, I mean, last summer when we all got together, the family got together, and where did we went?
Yeah, to the waterfront.
We went to East Bayfront. We went to the waterfront. And there's, I mean, Sugar Beach being one of them, the promenade being one of them, where we took a wander. There's all the
1.5 kilometer huge entire redevelopment.
And then the other big part right now is the Sherburne Common Park.
Yeah.
Which it's separated right now. You've got the northern portion, which has these beautiful sort of water features, and then you have the south portion, the southern portion, which is just all green. It's just a huge, big park.
This is where Park Suites is going to be.
Exactly. You're going to see all this greenery, and then moving down into the future, there's also competitions going on right now for the next parks that are going into this area. So we were talking about earlier about neighborhoods where you can work, live, and play.
Yeah.
This ticks all those boxes because you will be able to do all those things.
Yep.
And it ultimately attracts people.
That term tends to get overused in a lot of projects, but you can actually genuinely say this and it be very, very true.
Yeah. Well, transitioning into the work-live-play
Yeah.
portion, you mentioned a couple of other pillars, one being education and the other being jobs,
Mm-hmm.
which are obviously tied closely together.
Yeah.
We're talking about employment centres, and we're talking about
Yeah.
demand for rentals and demand for people to live nearby.
Mm-hmm.
So I do tie these two closely together. But talk to us about what this area has.
Well, I mean, before anything, let's talk about what's already there.
Sure.
Because you have two huge, employment centres already with George Brown campus, which actually is expanding. They just, I believe, there's 4 designs now that they've finalised on.
Yeah.
It's going to be called the Arbor.
Yeah.
It's they're going for a very eco-friendly wooden design for it, and it's just north of the current building.
Yeah.
Huge draw for employment.
Yeah.
And then literally beside it is Chorus Entertainment.
Yeah.
To the north of Chorus Entertainment, you're going to have Menkes Innovation Centre, which is another brand new, spectacularly designed building that will employ the tech sector mostly.
And we can talk for hours on the tech sector growth of Toronto, but I think this one's an important piece to talk about because the Innovation Centre is designed specifically to attract those tech jobs.
Yes.
And what do tech jobs attract? Very high-paying employees.
Very highly skilled individuals.
Yeah, exactly.
Very highly paid individuals. Menkes is just one of the pieces of the puzzle, and then just north of the Menkes site is the Daniels 2 office towers for Daniels as well.
And then a big piece of going back to the tech sector really quickly and the high-paying jobs. Those people aren't traveling.
Yeah.
No, they want the convenience.
They want convenience of being right in where
Live, work, play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's heightened. It feels like in terms of tech jobs. So having that there, and then of course we've got the big guy.
Well, let's transit.
Well, actually, before that, the other big employment piece here is all the retail.
Right.
Yeah.
Every single building is going to have double height retail. Every single building has to have retail. They're all places where people are going to work.
Yeah.
So.
You mentioned the perfect transition into technology before you ruined it. But
I'm sorry.
The number 3 reason that we're really excited about Lakeside and this community is obviously the big Google announcement that took place a few months ago. Google. Before we talk about what Google is doing, again, I just want to emphasize the importance of having that employment center nearby.
See, even before this announcement, we've said this before, even before we heard or it was announced and confirmed that Google were coming here, we absolutely adore this neighborhood. This is probably one of the favorite emerging neighborhoods ever, I think, for us. And then once the Google announcement came, that was for us like how can it get any better than this? The other big thing for me is Google as a company, just the sheer size and magnitude of what Google is, they could have picked anywhere in the GTA to settle, right? Wherever they wanted to be. The fact that they chose downtown Toronto, the fact that they chose East Bay Front to have their headquarters and to have their parent company establish whatever they're doing is huge. It says a lot about what the city is doing with this neighborhood. It says a lot about what's happening within the neighborhood as well. Yeah, for me.
And again, I think it's so important to highlight that Google brings along with it high-paying, high-skilled tech workers that don't want to drive half an hour.
Convenience. They want
to be nearby.
Walking distance.
Yeah, it's
all
practically next door. It's
Yeah.
practically it's over the park and Google Lands begin. So you're literally steps to this huge
Google headquarters.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's incredibly important. And like I said that before, that we love this neighborhood, but the fact that Google are coming here it changes everything. Yeah. Changes everything completely.
Okay, excellent. The number 4 reason that we're very, very excited about Lakeside is Greenland Developments. One of the largest builders on the planet. Give us a rundown on Greenland.
Yeah, so I covered this a couple of weeks ago during a release radar. They're a Fortune 500 company, perhaps one of the largest real estate development companies on the planet. I'm going to fire off some facts for them. They cover 4 continents, 9 countries, including USA, Canada, UK, Australia, and 13 cities. They are huge. I know you went to the...
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to be invited to sit down with Henry Cow, the president of Greenland, and some of the insights that he shared about the developer that we weren't aware of ourselves were amazing. He mentioned specifically the Brooklyn project. They're building 16 towers in Brooklyn, a $4 billion redevelopment down there, and in order to make this project work, they have to build a platform that they can build on top of.
Right.
And when they were going in and competing for this piece of land, they were one of only a couple of builders in the world that had the expertise to do this kind of work. Yeah. So you mentioned they've been they're in 4 continents.
They're global. Global.
He was also quick to highlight that they've built 3 of the top 10 tallest buildings in the world. You're dealing with a serious builder.
Yeah. For someone to take on the task of this kind of community, these are the big boys of.
Yes, it's interesting. That's a nice transition actually, because within the East Bayfront, taking it back out, the developers that are involved in East Bayfront are the best of the best. They're a who's who of Toronto condominium developers.
Yeah, they've been a big part of the growth of Toronto in terms of resident and commercial real estate.
Just rhyming off some names, we mentioned Greenland. Across the road is Great Gulf. Across the road, the other side is Daniels. To the south is Tridel. Menkes are building some of the commercial space. Yeah. So we're talking, the real who's who of Toronto developers that are building this vision out.
But this is all by design, because going back to the history of it, this whole parcel of land for the city was perhaps the most prime piece, right? Mm-hmm. And then they dubbed it the crown jewel. So if they're going to call it the crown jewel, they need to have all these top tier people involved, right? So it's all by design. It's all by design.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, and then the number 5 reason that we're really excited for Lakeside is the project itself. It's a funny one to end on, but it's so true. Yeah. We haven't even mentioned that we talked about the master plan, but this is a waterfront community, like a pure waterfront
itself.
Community.
So you're in a multifaceted, multi-phase master plan community, but the development itself, so you narrow it down even further, it's itself a master plan.
It's a master plan within a master plan.
Yeah.
So it's like the inception of a master plan.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about the project itself. So give us a quick rundown of how tall it is. Give us a quick rundown of the amenities and what to expect with Lakeside.
Well, in terms of the amenities, you do have your standard amenities, and you delve deep into the amenities. But you've got your swimming pool,
rooftop. It's a rooftop.
Yeah, rooftop. Sorry, you've got your yoga studios. You've got your gyms. You will have the retail space in the courtyard as well. Big feature. I always love when there's retail in a building. The building itself, so there was the back portion of the City Suites, which was the podium, which was 15 stories. Yeah. And then you have the front portion, which is now the Park Suites, again 15 stories. And then you have a 49 stories tower.
49-story tower. So it's
inclusive. Inclusive total. The next portion, the Park Suites, we mentioned this before, 260-odd suites. Yeah. There's going to be 2 to 15. It's a great development. It's really, really good. It'll be very well built. Greenland.
That's where the rooftop is, by the way, on top
on the
15th,
podium.
15th-floor podium there.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted, that again, it was a story that Henry shared at the dinner, but he mentioned that when they were designing Lakeside, instead of going out and hiring an architect and building what they built, what they actually did was they hired 3 architects, including a very, very prominent star architecture firm from around the world that's built some. I can't name the name. I was told I can't say who it is, but they built some of the most prominent buildings around the world. So what they did was actually they held a competition between the 3 architects. They paid 3 architects, and then based on the 3 designs of what they had planned for the master plan, they picked the best one. And this is where the Hariri Pontorini architecture comes from. It's incredibly well thought out, and again you see this level of detail that Greenland go into to pick out the designs for how this building comes into play. And again, this is an unusual strategy. We see competitions from time to time, but for them to hire 3 architects to bring back your best designs, and this is the one that they land on. And just to talk about Hariri, they did One Bloor, they did the Shangri-La. They've done some incredible buildings around the city. So
and beyond the design, I mean, people are obviously really interested in the floor plans themselves. And the floor plans themselves from the first 2 phases were really nice, especially in City Suites investors. Really nice, clean, square lines, right?
Absolutely,
So the Sky Tower was beautifully designed in terms of large units as well. So
a couple of our clients, end users, plan to actually live in the building.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually been a good mix in terms of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we talked about the 5 reasons that we're really excited about Lakeside. We talked about the price point, obviously one of the best things to be excited about. We talked about the waterfront master plan community with amazing retail and public space and jobs. We transitioned into the third reason that we're excited. We're next door to the brand new Google lands. Number 4 reason was Greenland Developments, one of the biggest developers in the world. And then finally, the project itself was the number 5 reason to be excited. So we're getting really close into the launch time frame. Now is the time to reach out to the team. If you have any questions. So Lakeside Residences, if you're interested, reach out to us and we'll be sure to get you in.